Hello, this is Real Numbers, Property and Reasoning, Example 4. And in Example 4, you're asked to prove that this, a times a negative 1, is the additive inverse of a. Well, the additive inverse, to show that it's the additive inverse, you would have to show that this plus this is 0. And that's what it says. You prove that this, a, plus this is equal to 0. And they started out with the multiplicative identity property. And the multiplicative identity property is right here. A times 1 equals a. And that's what they started with. A equals a times 1. And then they use the addition property of equality to add two things to both sides, and then they got this together with the distributive and showed that it's equals 0, and that's how they proved it. And you're probably thinking, man, I could never do that. That's some kind of Einstein stuff. And in a way, I guess it is. You've never been asked to prove something, and this proof is quite complicated, but it's not impossible. I mean, there's a lot of ways to show this, and it just comes with knowing all of these different properties. So here I started with the reflexive property. And with the reflexive property, you can start out with anything. See, the reflexive property says a equals a. Well, I said a plus a times a negative 1 equals itself. And I can say that by the reflexive property. Then I said that this, a times a negative 1, is equal to a. See, and that's the property of negative 1. A times negative 1 is equal to negative a. So here, this a times a negative 1 is equal to a. Well, a plus a negative a, that equals 0. That's the inverse property. See, a plus a negative a, that equals 0 by the inverse property. So by the inverse property, I've shown that a plus a times negative 1 equals 0. If you're familiar with these things, you can prove this stuff, and this looks impossible because you've never done this. Here's another one I put together. A plus or minus a, that's the inverse property. See, the inverse property right here, a plus or minus a, that equals 0. A plus or minus a equals 0. And then I said minus a is the same thing as a times a minus 1. And that's the property of negative 1. See, the property of negative 1 says a times a minus 1 is equal to minus a. So minus a is the same thing as a times a minus 1 by the property of negative 1. And that's what I had to show. See, I had to show that a plus a times minus 1 equals 0, and I showed it in just 2 steps. So these proofs are puzzles. You have to be up for a puzzle. If you're not up for a puzzle, well, you're certainly not going to be up for trying to solve a problem like this. And I think the book made it look a little bit more difficult than it was. I showed that there are some much simpler ways to do it.